Are you ready?
Starting now?
Well, now you just messed it up, you knob. God, you know that the shit that we go through for this, huh?
I know. Fuckers better appreciate it. What's the
right.
title of this podcast again?
I don't know. Objects, I don't know. Something with a penis, I guess.
Right.
Our fucking faces are everywhere now.
Right.
You know, but
You're
but
welcome, ladies.
Right. Popular with the ladies.
Right.
Oh, I'm not even going to apologize because hopefully it sounds fucking hilarious.
Yeah, totally. This is fucking explicit now.
The explicit button. Let me use my finger.
La, 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 la.
It is time for another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And that episode starts now. All right, everyone. Welcome once again to another episode of Sober, Not Mature. And this time, we have a little bit of a new recording setup. So hopefully, by the time you guys hear this, it's going to be wonderful.
It's going to sound much better. Sounds better on my end.
Yeah, it sounds better on my end too. So we actually are doing a trial with Riverside FM. This is the recording. Basically, they call it an online recording studio that we've been talking about. And I'm just going to say their name because if they're great, I'm going to plug the shit out of them, and if they're bad, I'm going to we're going to bash the shit out of them. So it's it's Riverside FM.
Exactly.
But everything that we've read about it, everything we've heard about it, and the setup seems it's easy, and I think it's going to be a little bit clear. Just long story short, I think this is going to be good for us. We've got, like I said, a 14-day trial. I set it up last night, so we've got at least 2 episodes to test it out. But basically, I mean, if things turn out well with this episode, I don't see why we wouldn't, just go ahead with it. But
right, yeah.
So the key there too is basically it should sound like we're sitting in the same room with each other, because I tested it out with my sister last night and had a kind of a fun little back and forth with her. It was fun. So
Cool.
Everything worked out, and I was able to download it and get everything set. So I know I can get it up into our.
So do we ever get to hear it?
Kathy's?
Yeah.
You know what? I should, because I'm like, as soon as I get on there, I'm like, tell me a story. And she's like, oh, a story. Then she started talking about what she wanted to do when she retired, and I was giving her a bunch of shit. So it actually was kind of funny, but
Nice.
yeah, maybe. Who knows? It was like 5 minutes of content, so we'll figure it out. Oh, real quickly before I forget. So back and forth when I was been talking to Kathy about different things. She was talking to a friend of hers, and it's the individual that gave us the suggestions to begin with. I know her, but Kathy also works with her. And Kathy said something along the lines of, "Oh, they mentioned, they keep talking about me on the episodes." And this friend of hers said, and again, friend of mine too, I know her also, but she's like, Kathy, they mentioned your name on every episode. And I haven't mentioned the other person's name because I'm like, well, I didn't want to out her, but now that she made that comment,
Yep.
this is what I'm gonna say, not her full name, but I'm gonna say her name. So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, Karen. Do you want to
Hi,
join in?
Karen.
Karen.
Hi, Karen.
Hey, Karen. Now, this is going to be a test also to see if she's actually been listening, but actually Kathy will probably tell her. But anyhow, so yep, Karen. So now you got your name mentioned.
Right.
But yeah, real quick, and we've got I think we got a lot to talk about with our trip and everything like that. But I want to go through the stats here real quick.
All right,
so,
bang them out.
Followers this week, we were up 48 new followers, so 1,000. Yep, 1,603. We just hit 1,600 today. And What was kind of funny was we actually had like 1608 or something like that, and then
Mm-hmm.
it dropped down to 1602, and
Mm-hmm.
then up to 1603. So we've gained about 10 today, and then lost 7. It's been, I don't know, it's been weird. I, I still want to know at some point. I mean, what is the thing that did they look at it? Did they listen to something? They're like, these guys are
Mm-hmm.
messed. These guys are messed the hell up, man.
Right. Just so you know,
um,
folks, it's bugging Bill because I heard about it several times on our 2.5 day trip.
it does. It baffles me. It's one of those things, more of a curiosity. Tell us what we're doing wrong. I'd love to know. Not
Uh-huh.
that we're gonna change anything. I'm
No.
just like, really, that was the thing.
Yeah.
It reminds me of when, people say, you're probably going to hell for that. I'm like, yeah, if I'm going to hell for that, if I show up
Right.
at if there is a hell and I show up at the door, I want to
Mhm.
know exactly what got me in there and figure out if it was worth it.
Right. And I'm betting it will be.
Right? I would hope so. I would
Yep.
hope so. All right. So individual plays on the podcast so far through about 25 minutes ago was 1,563. So we were up 114 new plays on the podcast this week.
All right. What I
So we
want to
had that.
know is who's following us and not listening.
Apparently, quite a few people. Yeah, because well, you never know. I mean, these are just individual plays. So you could have one person listen to, 22 episodes.
That's
So
true.
they're,
And
I
then,
think
so that's even more people that are following us and not listening.
exactly. So I
Okay.
think our average audience size is like 50 or 60, something like that. So,
Mm-hmm.
like per episode as it
Right.
averages out. But and then episodes. So your episode number 3, which is your story,
Yep.
still number 1 at 114. I actually slipped into the number 2 slot with episode number 1, which is my story, 101 plays.
Cool.
Episode number 13 has got an even 100. Episode 4 jumped ahead of our vodka bottle episode. So episode
Mm.
4 is number 4 with 94 plays. And then episode 10, once again, vodka bottle episode at 89. So still the same top 5, but they flipped around a little bit. And I was kind of happy. I'm in the deuce position right now. So
Yeah, you are.
I know. That's why I said that. I figured you'd join in on that one. Pretty much same split between the men and women now. Men 41%, women 55. So we still got that same split. But the biggest thing, and obviously, I talked about this. We posted pictures from our trip. If anyone hasn't been following on Instagram, we posted a shit ton full of things on there about it. But
Uh-huh.
Mike and I went up to. Well, Mike came up from Cleveland to Indiana on Monday. We
Yep.
drove up to Germantown to see my son real quick on Tuesday. Didn't see my daughter and my grandson and my son-in-law until the following day. But we headed to Green Bay. I went up there for a concert. There were
Y'all
3
hey
bands.
there.
Right. So yes, we were in Green Bay. If you saw the picture, we were actually parked at Lambeau Field, so that was kind
Mm-hmm.
of fun. And I saw your note about the Detroit Lions fan, which I thought was kind of funny.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but so we went up there. The band that was headlining, and again, we had talked about it, was Greta Van Fleet, but there was
Mm-hmm.
also 2 other bands opening. The opening act was a band called the Velveteers, which neither Mike and I had ever heard of before we had bought tickets for the show.
Right.
But then the middle band, opening band, was Rival Sons, which
Mhm.
you've known for 9 years, 10 years,
Somewhere
somewhere in
around
that area?
there. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we obviously went there, saw the show. I mean, all in all, I had a great time. Both of us had a
Mm-hmm.
great time. It was
Absolutely.
nice to spend a couple of days together, even though it was jammed into a car and you had to listen to my shit the entire time. But
Right.
so I mentioned that we were going to talk about the basically quote unquote review the concert. So you first,
Me
my friend.
first. Me
Oh,
first. Well,
you
okay.
first.
All right. Well, we'll start with the Velveteers. Like I said, neither one of us had heard of them before. Female lead singer and guitar player, and 2 guys on drums, and one of them's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays some guitar, he plays some keyboards, but just amazing band. I actually, after I did a little dive on YouTube, and then I went and bought their album, and I like them a lot. So check them out. That's my recommendation. It's got a good beat, and you can dance to it. Um, and they were great. They were really good. The venue was a hockey shed, and the sound wasn't the greatest in the world, but you know what? They sounded great. They were tight. Killer band, Velveteers. Like Bill said, Rival Sons. I've been into them for a long time. They're just a fantastic band. Go find stuff, listen to their stuff, watch their videos. They're incredible. I was I actually saw them a few years ago. Um, they they were supposed to play this club here in Cleveland called the Grog Shop, and they postponed it because they got the opening slot for Black Sabbath's final tour. So they went out and did that for like 9 months or something, and when that was done, they came back and they played Cleveland. And that night was just incredible. They had been, opening for Black Sabbath and playing 45 minutes a night, and I think this is one of the first gigs they did after that, and they played for 2.5 hours because they were ready to go, and it was just incredible. Great band. Look up Rival Sons, buy their albums, buy their CDs, buy a T-shirt, buy one of our T-shirts.
and we have no affiliation with them, but
No.
yeah, that's you just sounded like a little bit of a thing, but yeah.
Right, yeah. They're just one of my favorite bands, It's funny, there was a couple of younger girls sitting in front of us, and I made some snide comment about Greta Van Fleet and Led Zeppelin, and one of the girls said something like, yeah, because definitely we're a bit older than them, and I certainly look it with my gray beard. And she made some comment about, yeah, well, people that complain there's no good music anymore, something. And I was just like, no, I didn't say it to her because I'd just let it go because I do that today. But yeah, no, there's good music out there today, which brings us to Greta Van Fleet. I went in. They're not one of my favorite bands. I've always my deal with Greta Van Fleet. They sound good. Their songs are okay. But there's something missing, man. There's something that's just not there with that band. But I'd never seen them live, so I learned this somewhere to keep an open mind. And I was ready for them to change my mind about them, and they didn't. They proved themselves to be exactly what they are: professional, proficient, good players, but they're just not there. There's just something missing, putting them over the top to make them a good rock and roll band, and it's just not there. So yeah, that's my review of the show.
and and you know what? So when we walked in there, and first of all, the first thing as we were walking in, I was just like, I'm like, oh my God, there's like a bunch of kids here.
Right, which was cool.
And
I was glad.
oh yeah. But it was weird because I didn't know what to expect with that mix of bands and things like that. But it was pretty clear that all these young kids, and some were there with their parents and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
easily, Mike and I were figuring that average age had to have been mid-20s, which is fine.
Right.
It was just I don't know what I expected, but it was interesting that all these young kids, I mean, clearly were there to see Greta Van Fleet. They
Mm-hmm.
had the like the poster boards and things like that. People are getting their pictures taken in front of them. Then again, these two girls in front of us, they're like drooling over this. Oh, we love Greta Van Fleet. Do you like Greta Van Fleet? And I'm like, yeah, I like them. They're like, well, when they get out here, when they start, we're gonna stand. Are you gonna stand? I'm like, I'll probably stand. They're like, we're probably gonna dance. We're probably gonna dance and stand too. I'm just like, whatever, man. But
Have fun.
yeah, exactly. So, and it was a nice little venue, like you said, a hockey shed, probably a great way to put it. And
Mm-hmm.
in the sound, especially, I think the Velveteers, I mean, her voice, I was blown away by her voice. She sounds just as good live. They sound just as good live as
Yeah.
they did on anything I've listened to. But again, that's the first thing I said to Mike. I'm like, damn, I said this place is not really set up for sound.
Right.
And it got a little bit better with Rival Sons. I'm thinking, okay, because they got better equipment, been around a little bit more. But
Mm-hmm.
this dude, the lead singer, man, this guy blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
And I kept saying to him, I'm like, oh my God, his voice. So yeah, I mean, it was crazy. And then same thing, Greta Van Fleet comes out there, and it's a band. Mike is the one that introduced them to me, and it was
Mm-hmm.
Easter. We were all together here at Easter,
Right.
and so I've been listening to him for whatever it was, a few years,
Yeah, a
and I
couple
do,
years, right.
I really enjoyed their music, and boy, I tell you what, they were a huge disappointment.
Hmm.
And it was funny after the fact as we were walking out. What did you say about you were hoping I didn't think it was like the greatest show ever?
I was, yeah, I was. Well, and I kind of figured just from your reaction, whatever, because yeah. But I was hoping you weren't going to be. Oh my God, that was so fantastic. 'Cause, God damn it, I hate to be negative today. I really do. Um, Again, part of the sobriety thing and all that, my entire life was spent trying to bring people down to my miserable level. And I really, really try not to do that today. And yeah, I didn't want to have to do that to my buddy. It's like, that was fantastic. That was the greatest thing I've ever seen. No, no, it fucking wasn't.
But see, even if I thought that and you
Right,
didn't, it wouldn't have bothered me because you and
right.
I have a difference of opinion when it comes to different music and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. I wouldn't have been
Right.
offended by it, but
I know.
but yeah, I mean, like what Mike said, and you said this to me after we left the show that they just don't have any soul to their music, and I'm like, that's a
Right.
great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is, and it's weird, and we were telling my daughter and my son-in-law about it, and my daughter went to actually she and her husband and my sister and my niece and all that went down to Lollapalooza last year, and the Foo Fighters played there the night after they
Mm-hmm.
played in Milwaukee. And my daughter said she's always liked the Foo Fighters. I have too, and she said seeing them in concert just added to it. Like, oh my God, they're such a great band.
Right.
And this actually had the opposite. Reaction for me. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'll never listen to their music, but it put a spin on it. And the thing of it is, and whatever. I mean, they clearly there was the audience that was there. I'd say probably 80% of the people that were there seemed to enjoy themselves and had a
Right.
great time and
Mm-hmm.
enjoyed the music and all that stuff. And I don't take away from it. I'm not telling anyone not to see them.
Right.
It wasn't what Mike or I expected. Maybe it was what you expected,
It
but
was exactly what I expected.
well, it wasn't what I expected.
Right.
So, and it didn't bum me out. It was just kind of wow, really. But it was a disappointment. But here's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. So all in all, what it turned out to be, and what I was, when I was posting on Instagram and things like that, is that, you know, two guys that are really really good friends, and we're brothers and all that stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't have that much time to do that.
Right.
We live far apart, and we both are busy and all those different things. So
Yep.
we got the opportunity to spend a couple of days together. Go back to old times. We got to sleep in the same room.
We did. Separate beds,
Because
folks.
yeah, separate beds. But no, that's so funny story. We booked a hotel up there, and when I opened the door first, and Mike was behind me, and I just see the
Right.
corner of like one bed,
Right.
and I told him, I'm like, I peeked in, I'm like, oh God, I said I immediately got the planes, trains, and automobiles thing in my head, like there's gonna be like, oh, one bed, what are we gonna do? But no, there was two beds.
Those aren't pillows.
But no, I mean we had a great time, and on top of that too, we were there sober, and even
Yep.
though there's a younger crowd,
Mm-hmm.
still a lot of people there drinking and stuff like
Sure.
that. And I don't know about you. I mean, I know your answer. I'm going to speak for you. I don't think it affected you at all. You
Nah.
weren't triggered.
No.
And we got to be there, and I got a soda, he got a water. We hung out, we had a great time. So regardless, it was a nice trip, and it was a good sober trip with good sober friends, and we had a good time. That was the
Yep.
key. But I'll tell you, I'm of the same opinion as what Mike just said. I want to, and I'm just gonna say I need to get more involved with Rival Sons. I'm telling you, man, they kick some ass. I mean, they really do. And I've been listening to them ever since we first whenever we booked the show, which would have been what, last December probably,
So, yeah,
or booked
something
the
like that.
tickets.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been listening to them ever since, but not as deeply as what I plan on doing. But man, they were a good band. So,
Yeah,
but
and
anyhow,
and you want to, speaking of soul, if you really want to see something cool, they did this is several years ago. Some radio station, I think in LA. It's on YouTube. Look it up. They covered James Brown, It's a Man's World. And
really.
yeah, oh, it's intense stuff, man.
Yeah, it was like I say, it was that they were great, but the bottom line here is that I mean we had a great time. That's what
Yep.
matters. It was a sober trip and we got to spend some time together, which is, something that we don't get to do very often. And I don't think we had any other were there any like stories or anything to talk about? I mean, I don't think we had anything nothing outside of the ordinary except those two chicks in front of us just cracked us both up. But
Right. The flat can
um
girls.
yeah. Flat bottom girls. Yeah, let's say we'll leave that one alone.
We
But
will.
and they were probably in their mid-20s, so we're
Yep.
not being we're not being like super disgusting or anything
No.
like
Oh
that. But
God, no, no. When it's
but
right in
yes.
front of you, I stayed seated the whole time, so it was literally right in front of me.
Yeah, you had that ass in your face the entire
Uh,
time. So, but no, I mean seriously, we had a really nice time. So it
yep.
was good. It was a good time.
Yep. Absolutely.
Um, Anything else on that, or I mean, I think that about covers the
No,
the trip.
just
I think.
I mean, like you touched on, man. If you're out there and you're new in sobriety and you're worried about what the hell am I going to do? Am I ever going to have any fun again? You will.
Right. And
Yeah.
the thing of it is, and you and I have talked about this for a number of years, and we used to talk about it in group, and I've said it to people in leads.
Hmm.
So, and obviously, Mike and I have talked about this a lot on all these different episodes, but we got placed together, odd situations, and then just continue to be put together over this time frame, and
Right.
we became friends. I don't even want to say by default, but kind of,
Yeah. Yeah.
had we never been thrown together like we were, we never would have been friends.
Oh no.
So sort of. But along with all of that is I highly recommend to anyone that's new, especially if, I mean, find somebody who's clearly serious about, trying to stay sober because you pop in
Hmm.
the, just like anything else, you get in with the wrong group of guys at a sober living facility, a treatment center, they're going to draw you in the wrong direction. I mean,
Yep.
there's no better way to put it. We're all vulnerable at that time frame.
Oh yeah.
And even if you think you're not vulnerable or impressionable and peer pressure and all that shit, don't believe it because you are, and especially at that time, you're not going to have that inner strength yet, and that
Right.
that you're not going to have what you need in order to protect yourself from that sort of thing. But if you can, or if you already have, find a person, that you can be friends with and relate to, because I'm not saying that who knows, if you'll end up with what so far Mike and I have been friends, from the start.
Right.
And even though moving away and all the different things that happened, we're all family now,
Yes, we
so.
are.
Um, I don't know that that's going to happen with everyone, but it doesn't mean it can't. But the whole
Hmm.
point is that find somebody you can do these things with.
Right.
And I'm not afraid to go anywhere with Mike. And we had even talked about after the show because we were right by Lambeau Field,
Hmm.
and there's a bunch of bars and stuff around there. Now it was a Tuesday night, but depending on if we would have been hungry, if there would have been
Right.
someplace open, it probably would have been one of those bars.
Hmm.
And he and I easily could have went in there, and whether we sat down and ate or took it someplace else, I would not have felt comfortable or uncomfortable walking into a bar with
Right.
him. I wouldn't do it on my own unless it was carry out,
Yeah.
but there's a different story when you're there with somebody, and that's the point.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, to your exact point, you can have fun and you will have fun.
Yep.
You just got to put in the work and put in the time.
Yep.
So, cool.
Oh.
Um, all right. So, a couple of things on the merchandise and stuff like that. I just put a couple of things on sale. First of all, and I hated to even say it on the Instagram post, but considering I mean, it's almost August. I mean, none of us are blind. I mean, when we're looking at the calendar, I'm not saying summer's over, but it's heading that
Uh-huh.
way.
Yeah.
So what I did is I put a $5 discount on our tank tops. Any of the tank tops we have up on our merchandise store, you can click through there either on our Instagram highlights or on the website. $5 off any one of those tank tops, and I also put a discount, 15% discount on everything else. So the 15% discount, the promo code is Sober Sale, so SoberSale. That's good on anything on our merchandise store, on our web store. For the $5 off on the tank tops, it's simple. It's Tank Sale. So TANKSALE. And both of those are set up through August 12th. So I did it for 2 weeks from today. But
Cool.
hop on there. We've got a lot of new and different merchandise. We still got the coffee cups, water bottles, a few other things. We got hoodies, now up there. I added some stuff to some of the different merchandise. There's plenty of things on there, so take a look. It's a great way to obviously support the podcast. But I don't know personally,
And
and
it's
I'm
also
probably
a great
biased.
way to look cool.
I was just gonna say I'm probably biased, but I think it looks pretty cool,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a great way to look cool. Yeah, exactly. But hey, if anyone has any ideas for any saying or anything like that you want on, a piece of merchandise, let us know. I mean, we'll make up a T-shirt. It doesn't matter. It
Yep.
takes minutes, literally minutes for us to do it. And if you give us the T-shirt idea, I will give you your individual promo code, and I'll give you a discount on whatever merchandise you gave us to design. So we're more than willing to do that also. Okay.
Such a deal.
I know, I got such a deal for you. So yeah, the merchandise, obviously donation tab is on there. Still, always rate us. We got a couple of new reviews this week, which are wonderful.
Cool.
Give us a 5-star review, Apple Podcast, Spotify, or you can go right at our website. One of the people did the review on there, so we had a chance to post that up.
Nice.
We appreciate everyone that's listening, everyone that's following us. We're still having a hell of a good time.
We
This
are.
is episode 23, and I mean, I don't know. Do you want to stop doing this anytime soon, Mike?
No, no.
I don't either. So nothing's pissed us off enough to stop yet. So I think we're in
Right.
good shape.
You stuck
You
with
know.
us for a little while longer anyway.
Yeah, you couldn't ignore me if you tried.
That's right.
Breakfast Club. There you go. All right. So, a couple of different things that I know. There was two stories that I thought of while you and I were hanging out.
Oh
One was
yeah.
the wedding. One was a wedding story, and the other one was a concert story. Which one do you want to hear?
I want to hear the wedding story.
Okay. So, first of all, not that it would, well, if it does bother you, this is a drunk story, but it's kind of a fun one. But it was funny
We've
for
all
me.
got them.
Yeah, this is one of those rare moments where we're gonna dig back into our history and tell a drunk story. But so is my sorry about that, little drink of coffee before I run my mouth a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So it was my sister and her, obviously at the time, her husband's wedding. So they got married in, God, it was around this time, and yeah, July of '93.
Uh-huh.
So just to put a little bit of again, I got sober in 2010. Okay, so
Right.
let's just start there. So 1993. Basically, I was at that point, I would have been in my mid 20s. My sister would have been 20, again, probably late 20s there. And her husband was my age or a little bit younger than me, actually. So, right, all of us are in that age. Bunch of people from high school. So, it was basically this monstrous wedding, but kind of a high school reunion. All family and
Mhm.
stuff were there, and they had an open bar. Okay, so on top of that, my dad was there, and my dad was sober at the time. My dad got sober in '81, so he was oh shit, he was about had about our time now.
Right.
So he would have been like 12 years sober at that time. Um, at that time, my dad and I were on the outs. We hadn't talked in probably 5 years, I think, at that time.
Mm-hmm.
There was no I did not care for him one little bit. The story behind that is irrelevant. But he and I had not seen each other, had not talked or whatever. So, wedding goes on. We did the wedding. It was cool, everything like that. Get to the reception, open bar, and it's all of our family too, and our family's drinking. Everyone's having a great time, and again, it's open bar.
Yeah.
Um, so we're all, I mean, everyone. Did you ever meet Vicky, Courtney's mom, Courtney Ryan's
Oh
mom?
yeah.
Okay, Vicky got cut off that night.
I can see that.
Yeah,
Yes, I've met
Vicky.
Vicky.
So Vicky got cut off, and she sent me to go get drinks for her. And what
Of
she was
course.
whatever she was drinking was this specific thing, and I walked up and he's like, "Is that for that blonde lady that we cut
Yeah.
off?" I'm like, "No, I had a drink of hers and I liked it, so I need one."
Sure.
So so anyhow, so Vicky got cut off.
One drunk helping another.
Right. Everyone's loaded, everyone's dancing. It was a great time. But all said and done, I was married to my daughter's mom at the time,
Right.
and you figure 93, our daughter would have been like 6 at that time. No, actually 5. I'm sorry, yeah, because she would have been 5. So she was there. She had a great time. And then there was her sister. So my ex's sister and her boyfriend at the time, who all of us hung out, and me and the boyfriend were good friends.
Hmm.
So we were all going to go back to, I think, his house. He lived right down from where my ex-in-laws lived. We were all going to hang out there. So my ex was in, she didn't drink that much. So she was in the car with my daughter and I think my sister-in-law. And then I was in another car with the other dude and whatever. So we get back to his house. And apparently along the way, my daughter threw up out the window. My daughter did.
Hmm. Sure.
So the 5-year-old threw up. So we're figuring one of two things. Either she got, ate way too much sweets, or maybe she took a sip of somebody's drink, but either way, she threw up.
Hmm.
So my ex is like, "No, we're gonna go home," and I'm all, because I'm drunk. I still want to
Oh
keep
yeah.
drinking.
Right.
I want to
Phenomenon
hang out.
of craving.
Right. I don't want to go home.
Nope.
Um, so we get in this fight. Anyhow, all said and done, we get in the car and we drove my sister-in-law home at the time, dropped her off, and at this point we're like where they lived to where we lived at that time, it's probably 3 miles or 5 miles. It's I think five, come to think of it. It's a little ways.
Yeah.
So we drop my sister-in-law off, we pull out of the driveway, we're right in front of their house, and we're arguing, and she's like, blah blah blah, this, and I said, fine. I said, stop the car and let me the fuck out. You know what? She
Hmm.
did. She stopped, I got out, she drove away, and I'm like, well, okay. I start walking. Now, I'm in a tux. I don't have my jacket on anymore, but I've got my tuxedo shirt. I didn't have the bow tie on anymore, but I got and this is rented tux. I wasn't like tux owning guy.
Right.
Um, so I got my tux pants on, black pants. I got my tux shoes on. I got my white shirt on, and it's hotter than a motherfucker on top of it too. So I'm like, okay, fine. I guess I'm walking home. So I cut through these yards, get back to the highway. Apparently, she circled back around to get me, and I
Uh-huh.
was gone. So she's like, well, fuck it. She just went home.
Yeah.
So I walked the whatever it was. Let's call it 3 miles, not to because I might be exaggerating with 5, but I walked the 3 miles. I get home, the sun's coming up, the whole thing. At this point, I'm sober at this point, but
Uh-huh.
I've been falling down. I've been this and that. I ripped my pants. I'm full of fucking burrs. And then my punishment when I got home in the morning, she made me clean out because not only my daughter puke on the side of the car, but got a little bit in the car.
Hmm.
She's like, "Well, if you're gonna do this and you're gonna walk home, you can go clean the car." So I'm sitting there again, hung the fuck over,
Right.
trying to clean up vomit out of the car. So best thing is that day I got to return the tux. So I clean it off the best I can. The shirt's just like brown now. It's not even white. Again, hole in the pants, burrs all over. I'm cleaning them up as much as I can. The shoes are fucked up. Um, so I just put it all back in the bag and I take it back to whatever the store was, and it's in the mall.
Right.
So hand it to the guy and he unzips the bag and he's like, what happened here? So I'm like, yeah, I had car trouble. I had to walk through some fields to get some help and blah, blah, blah. Now, the only saving grace, because we didn't have a lot of cash at the time, was that my my sister and her husband or fiance at the time
uh,
had said, make sure that with all the tuxedo rentals and things like that, put insurance on them to make sure that,
hmm.
just in case. So it had
Right.
insurance on it, didn't cost me a thing, but these people at the store were just pissed.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, so I got in a fight and I walked home from my sister's wedding, and my my daughter's mom was the maid of honor in the wedding too, which is also kind of funny because
Nice.
when shit went south and they had their wedding picture up, now that's my ex-wife in their wedding
Right.
picture. But all said and done, they've all mended their ways as we all have, thankfully, over the years. But so yeah, I again, I know that probably surprises you. Oh, the biggest thing though is so remember my dad was there, and my dad, I know he said it at that point, and he said it at one other point to my sister, because I mean clearly he could tell I was getting lit up at the wedding.
Mm-hmm.
He had said to my sister, again, this is 1993. He said, "You should keep an eye on your brother. You know,
Uh-huh.
just saying, keep an eye on him," type of thing. So
Right.
my dad called it
Yeah.
17 years before I got sober. But imagine that, another alcoholic saw
Right.
through me.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so
So
that's
we're not
my
fooling anybody.
right, yeah, and seriously, and the reason I mentioned how long it had been, because I almost forgot to say that comment. It had even been that long since I saw him, so he didn't know how much I drank on a regular basis. And of
Right.
course, as we think, we're gonna blend in at a wedding, but I
Mm-hmm.
I didn't I didn't blend.
Right.
Apparently, I didn't blend at
Right.
all.
In a room full of people drinking, we still stand out because we're special that way.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Uh-huh.
I mean, seriously, when you think about it, and that's why and everything I said not only was true, but I was trying to make a point about everything that the atmosphere in the high school and the open bar and everything else. So everyone else was there, but
Mm-hmm.
still, after all said and done, I mean, it's funny enough that I walked home and all that, but I think the key to that story to me is the fact that my dad picked up on that,
Mm-hmm.
and there was nobody could have told me anything. A year. Yeah, a little over a year later, actually no, less than a year later, I got my DUI.
Right.
I was divorced, by within 2 years of that.
Uh-huh.
Um, and it didn't get any better.
Yeah.
Imagine that, as
Imagine
they
that.
say.
Yep.
So yeah, that was my wedding story. That's why. Oh, that got brought up because when we stopped and saw my son, he said he was at a wedding.
Right, right,
His
right.
his girlfriend's mom got married and said they had a really nice time, but he mentioned
Mm-hmm.
something about open bar, and I'm like, oh, I got an open bar story. He's looking at me, and then Mike's looking at me, and I'm like, nope, I'm saving this one for the podcast. my my stories. The good thing is, Mike, if you've never heard stories from me anymore, you don't have to hear them twice. We're just going to talk about them on here.
Right.
You're like, thank God.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, so that was my little story. Any stories that came out of that popped out of your head that you want to talk about, or you want
I
to go
mean,
on to a
yeah. Wedding, open bar, alcoholic. I got a few. Right. Same thing. I actually one that pops in my head. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, his best friend got married, and I went to the wedding. Actually went with God. I'm trying to think. I think my wife and I were split up at that point. Yeah, I know we were. But I was still friends with him, and I was my brother-in-law, and I was friends with his best friend. So I went to the wedding, and I went with my mother-in-law. I was her escort to this wedding, and yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I went to the wedding, went to the reception. I was I was trying to be a good boy that night, right? Because I was there, and blah blah blah. And I was, for the most part, I was being pretty good. We had dinner at the reception. I mean, I was drinking some beers and stuff, but I was purposely staying away from the hard stuff. Trying to control my drinking,
right?
and and made it through. It's probably 3 hours, and people are dancing and drinking. And again, I'm sticking to beer, and it's all good. I got a nice, I got a nice buzz going. Don't get me wrong, but and then the groom, my brother-in-law's best friend, grabbed me up, and because we had partied together pretty good in the past, and grabbed me up, took me over to the bar, and we started doing shots. And, and it wasn't too long after that I started making an ass out of myself. And, and they had to drag me out of there and pour me into a car and send me on my way. That's what we do, kids. That's what we do. So yes, I have a very relatable story to that as well. There's probably other ones that aren't coming to mind right now, but you put me in a room with an open bar, eventually I'm going to abuse it because that's what I do.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, even to this day, the difference in how I eat in a normal restaurant versus a all you can eat buffet, the
Right.
casino was a perfect example of that.
Uh-huh.
And and I am not joking when I say that the three of us and three alcoholics
Right.
now sober, and this was, we
Hmm.
were what, 8 years, 8, 9
Yeah.
years
Right.
sober
I
at
was
the
gonna
time.
say I was probably 4 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, so 8, 9 years sober, whatever the deal was, and the three of us
Hmm.
walked out of there, and all of us were literally and physically in pain.
Yeah.
And it wasn't like, ooh, yeah, I think I eat too much. It's like, no,
No.
we gorged ourselves
Yeah, we did.
because we spent whatever it was. It wasn't super expensive, but it was still
That was like
30
it's
bucks or
like 30
something.
bucks, right? Yeah, 30 bucks a pop.
Yeah, but I mean, I go to there's a uh, pizza buffet. That's what the restaurant's called. I think it's called. It's not a pizza buffet, but it's a pizza restaurant buffet thing. Can't think of the name of it, but
Yeah.
in Wisconsin, there's a few of them that we've gone to, and every time I've gone to one of those, and I'm spending, you're spending 10, 12 bucks a piece there. It's not a lot of
Hmm.
money,
Right.
but I'm telling you, man, I eat the shit out of that.
Right.
And you and I, when we went to that the buffet, we were just talking about that, the one down in
Yeah.
Janesville,
Right.
whatever that was. We ate the shit out of that one too, you know.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, and that's the thing with the, I mean, open bar. It's like, well, why not?
Oh yeah.
It's here and it's free and it's all you can eat, all you can drink, whatever the deal is. Why wouldn't we, right?
Right.
But
Yeah.
um,
We always want more.
yeah, and it just yeah, it's kind of amazing that. Well, and here's the thing too is that and we've told both of our stories and we've talked a little bit, but when people talk about up in leads and things like that. You and I are more about talking about, and we want to hear more about how do you live sober, not how did you get here.
Right.
But if anyone's been waiting for a couple of decent qualifying stories,
There they
you just
are.
got them.
Yep.
You just got them. But so and there was a question I had written down here from a couple of weeks ago, and this kind of lines up with what we were just talking about. But
All right.
um, do you, while you were drinking, and this is a podcast thing, listen to the other podcast, would you have considered yourself to be a high functioning alcoholic or I mean, in those situations both
Right.
of us were stumbling and bumbling, but
Right.
in a normal circumstance before
Right.
shit really got bad, do you
I
consider
mean,
yourself high?
yeah, there were certainly periods of my life where I functioned. I held a job and had a place to live, and you know, even had a couple of friends. Um, sure, yeah, there were periods of my life, and they were periods after I had bottomed out a bit. Absolutely. I came back and yeah, functioned. I don't know about high functioning. I would consider high functioning, having a really good job and a place of my own, not renting a room out of somebody's house. But yeah, I was never. I was functioning.
Right.
I certainly was never high functioning. As every teacher I ever had from probably first grade on, he's not living up to his potential.
Well, and you know what? It's kind of funny that you say that. That was all, and it used to piss me off in high school because, I would get. I wasn't a straight A student. Kathy was, and
Uh-huh.
I had to work a little bit harder to. I don't want to say get decent grades, but sort of. But
Hmm.
I still, I mean, I carried a 3.2 to probably 3.2, 3.3 area, but I did just enough, and imagine this, just enough to
Mm.
get by
All
and
right.
to try to keep mom off my ass and teachers off my ass.
Right.
But that was the thing, and the comments are what used to piss me off because I get an A and they're like same deal,
Right.
not working up to his potential, or I get a B
Hmm.
plus or something like that, and I'm just like,
Right.
fucking seriously, what the fuck do you want from me, man?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, the high functioning part, and you put it a good way that there was periods in your life where, um, and same with me where I think shit was, at least again on the surface things fell into
Hmm.
place. Probably like when Dawn and I got together. Well, right before we got together, because that's when I started making a little bit of money. I lived in a nice apartment.
Right.
I mean, at that time I had my company car. So again, on the surface, it looked like I was doing pretty well. And then Dawn and
Mm-hmm.
I get together and we bought the house, and we had the kid, and we're married. So again, on the surface, I think that it again, the appearance is kind of what I was leading into. That was the second part of the question. Even if you didn't think you were, at least on the surface, maybe you look
Right.
that way.
Well,
And
what did Joe used to say? A mackerel in the moonlight, right? It's
I,
all
I,
shiny and pretty from far away, but you get up close to it and it stinks.
right. And I don't. Boy, I tell you, if I ever heard him say that, I certainly don't remember it. But
Ah,
that's a good one though. That's
yeah,
actually a really good one.
yeah. That's what he referred to himself as, a mackerel in the moonlight. It was pretty and shiny and looked good from the outside, but you got up close and it stunk.
Yeah. Well, and again, that's a thing with him, between something like that and then his making a cake story and following the
Mm-hmm.
recipe. His stories, that's the one thing I enjoy about him. I mean, his stories are very not only relatable but very visual, and
Right.
I learn that way and I think that way and I remember things that way from a
Mm-hmm.
visual standpoint. So it's probably again why I enjoy him so much. But I really
Right.
do. I enjoy him a lot,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. So that's cool. So kind of one other one that again kind of came up on um, the again one of the podcasts, and this one kind of irritated me a little bit, and I'll tell you why. But I wanted to get your opinion on the word anonymity. What anonymity means to you,
Mm-hmm.
what being anonymous means to you, and when it comes to AA versus that sort of thing. So
Right.
what do you
Right.
think?
Well, there's certainly the stigma against alcoholics and drug addicts has certainly lessened in our society. That's just a given, but it's still there. It's still people. There are people, and rightfully so, hear the word alcoholic and think of a bum on the street with a bottle of wine in a paper bag, um, which I've been. Um,
You mean just on the street with a bottle of wine or a bum too?
well, all of the above. Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to hear you say it, that's all.
Great, I know, and I appreciate it. Right, but and there, again, people in society, they, if I walk up to certain people and say I'm a drug addict, because I am, always will be, I'm a heroin addict. Um, I don't know, that people at work. I mean, I don't tell people at work what I am. I don't. I just, because I don't have to. The way I live my life today is, if it ever came up, if I was ever directly asked the question, I would answer it honestly, because that's what I do. Yes, I'm a member of the secret society. Yes, I've been sober for 12 years, but I am an alcoholic and I am a junkie and all that good stuff. Um, but yes, what happens in the rooms stays in the rooms. We don't specifically talk about. We talk about stuff we've heard in meetings, but we don't attribute it to a certain person generally. Um, I mean, we talk about our friends and stuff, but that's different. They're our friends, and we know they don't care, just like we don't care. Um, but Bill's a great example of that. I mean, he's not as open as I am about where we are and where we came from and all that good stuff and what we had to do to get to where we are today. And that's cool. It's a personal choice. Um, I think the anonymous part of Alcoholics Anonymous is important. I think anonymity is important. Um, just because it's nobody's business, you know. If an individual like myself wants to be open about it, cool. And if an individual like Bill doesn't want to be as open about it, or not open at all, that's cool too. I don't have a right to say anything about anybody else. I just don't. The only person I have a right to say anything about is me. And that's where that comes in. I can't tell you everybody that's in the rooms, because I know there's people in there that don't want other people to know. And that's okay, you know. But I want them to feel safe. I want them to know that they can trust me. If they have a problem, they can talk to me, and I'm not going to tell a bunch of people about it unless they say I can. So yeah, it's still important. It's maybe not as important as when the thing was founded 80 some years ago, but it's still important, and we have to respect that. Traditions are there for a reason.
Right, and there's and I'll tell you the reason why I brought it up to begin with, but and yeah, everything that you just said, and it was kind of funny. I thought about it as you were talking about it. One of our followers that has interacted with us quite a bit and
Mm-hmm.
asked some questions and posed a few things.
Yep.
She had sent me a message the other day through Instagram, and she's like, how have things changed for you guys, since you've been, and she put it, since you've been so open,
Mm-hmm.
obviously with what you're doing. And this was after I'd written down this question. This question is from a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I said, here's the thing. I said, and Mike and I have talked about this on one of the episodes. He's been open from the start. I
Right.
have not.
Right.
And even with this, and that's why I told her, I'm like, because Mom asked me about that too. She's like, man, you guys are talking about a lot of stuff. Do you worry
Mm-hmm.
about whatever? I'm like, I've been on Instagram now for 4 months, 5 months,
Right.
and there's nobody that I know that's found me.
Right.
Doing all this stuff. I mean, that's why that, like in our intro, the whole thing when I was talking about our faces are everywhere, and then your great line, "You're welcome, ladies." uh, I honestly, I love the shit out of our intro. That's just a side note.
Mm-hmm.
Every time I'm putting it together and I'm setting up the episode, it makes me laugh and
Right.
laugh and laugh. But so it is. I mean, my picture's all over the place,
Right.
but my name is not attached. My real full name is not attached to any of this.
Right.
Now, if somebody found me through this, I
Mm-hmm.
don't care. But I'm not. I'm not yet. To your point, I'm not yet willing. I don't want to get out there and be open. I don't do it at work. I've never done
Right.
it at work as far as explaining who I am, unless
Mm-hmm.
I've met somebody that I either, it turns out again, like I think they're in the program or I found out they are, then we have a conversation and then we
Sure.
respect our own anonymity.
Right.
But the way it came up on the podcast, because the main point that I was trying to get to here is that it's okay. You're not doing anything with you're not breaking anonymity by talking about yourself. You can tell
Right.
anyone you want about what you do.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. But what you can't do, or what you shouldn't do, is tell everyone about me or tell everyone about somebody else in
Right.
the program. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to protect somebody else's anonymity. We can do whatever we want with our own.
Right.
Right. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, and this this guest they had on one, and again, I'm listening to some of her original episodes, which are back from, like, I don't know, 3-4 years ago. That
Mm-hmm.
probably doesn't even matter. But the guest had said, was talking about the word anonymous and Alcoholics Anonymous
Mm-hmm.
specifically, and saying that the word anonymous is basically saying that it shouldn't be that way. That because if everyone should speak out and speak up, and
Ah,
I'm listening to it and I'm like, you're really fucking wrong.
right.
Because no, the whole point is that we get to walk in this room
Mm-hmm.
and we get to again air all of our laundry. We talk about a lot of shit on here, but
Right.
we don't talk about everything. We
No.
don't tell all of our stories. There's certain things that I will never talk about into an open mic.
Right.
Well, I'll talk about it to my friend Mike,
Right. Right. Exactly.
but not into an open microphone,
Right.
because either and I've said it before, when I tell stories about my ex-wives and all that sort of thing, I'll tell a story that involves them, but I'm not
Mm-hmm.
going to tell their story. It's not
No.
fair.
Right.
They're not here to defend themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or to even join in on the conversation.
Right.
But the whole point with all that stuff is that we have a safe place to go, and I love the way you put that. We get to walk into these rooms, and we get to have trust, and we get to talk about these things, and
Mm-hmm.
that is the deal. What goes on in the room stays in the rooms,
Yep.
unless, I mean, we can go ahead and tell our story wherever we want,
Mm-hmm.
including here.
Right.
But then I thought about it. I'm just like, this person, and that's still, and the person was somebody who had been involved with Alcoholics Anonymous, but
Mm-hmm.
felt that again, the word anonymous, the fact that was holding back people, kind of like holding back the movement of helping other people who need the help. And I'm like, that can't be
No.
anywhere further
Yeah.
from the truth.
Right.
I'm
Exactly. It's the exact opposite of that. Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, we've done some really shitty things in our lives, and we need to make those things right. That's what the steps are for. But we need to be able to walk into those rooms and have that trust and have that safe space to work through that shit. Yeah, we can't. It's a process, man. And we need that anonymity to work through that process. Once we get through that process, or we're farther along through the process, yeah, I don't have a problem. But like you said, there are certain things. Yeah, there are things in my life that I'm not going to say into this microphone because it's nobody's business. Those are the things that I did a fifth step with a priest. That's what that step is for. Right. That's not what this is.
Right. And like I said, even with the story, and that's why when I told the story about my daughter, I immediately texted her because
Mm-hmm.
so that and and for everyone out there, and I think I don't know about you, Mike, but when we're talking here, I get the feeling almost in me like we're talking live, even though I know this is a recording.
Right.
So I know that if something is said, it can be undone.
Mm-hmm.
But I still don't think about it. There's been times when,
Yeah.
with our other recording software, so far so good on this one, but
Yeah.
um, with the other recording software where I'm just like, okay, we might stop. We got to stop right here because we got to cut this. Like that one episode that we did, I had 3 clips. That was last week.
Yeah.
Yeah, three or things I had to cut off. It was crazy. But
Right.
um,
That's why
but
we're
with the
doing it
story,
this way this week.
right, and hopefully from this point forward.
Right.
But with that story with my daughter, I told her, I'm like, I talked about it. I don't have to put it up if you have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
She's like, it's okay. I trust what you talked about,
Mm-hmm.
which made me feel good because she
Mm-hmm.
knows that I guess I think hopefully she knows, or maybe that was the point behind it, is she knew that I wasn't going to say anything into this microphone that could hurt her,
Right. Yeah.
um
I mean, hopefully the majority of what we do today in our lives and everything, including this podcast, comes from a place of love.
right.
Yeah. And trying to help people. And those damn absolutes, there they are again. We're trying to be honest, we're trying to be unselfish, and we're trying to be loving.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I said that when we were talking about the absolutes, you put it the best way when you had said it. And again, we figured out that all these things have been stolen from somebody. But
Right.
when you said that honesty without love is cruelty,
Mm-hmm.
so when someone walks up and asks you a question, or if you being honest with that person is going to hurt them,
Right.
there's just certain times when you just got to keep your fucking mouth shut,
Yep.
because you're, I mean, we want to be honest, but we don't want to be hurtful.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's just that whole anonymity thing, and it's like I said, it's funny. I've been listening to these episodes, for the most part. It's not that I'm on the phone sometimes. I got things that I really got to concentrate on where I got to
Mm-hmm.
shut it off, but I can play these episodes in the background, and it's nice because I'm listening, I'm getting the information. A lot of the stories are the same, but then every once in a while I hear something,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like a dog that hears a noise like whoop.
Oh.
Arr. So
Pop
I'm
that
like,
head.
yes, my head is then cocked,
Right.
and I'm like, back up 30, back up 30, back up 30,
Mm-hmm.
back up 30, back up 30. And I'm like, I need to listen to what this motherfucker just said.
Right.
Then I get out my phone and I'm like, podcast. But yeah, I mean, it's the people get to feel however they want to feel. I mean, I don't care. I don't take it out against that person. I think they're wrong.
Right.
But
Right.
if a person said that in a meeting, even I might shake my head, but I'm not going to walk up to them and say, "Listen,
Right.
you're completely wrong." Well,
Mm-hmm.
they have a right to their opinion. I
They
don't
do.
care. Doesn't affect me.
Right.
The fact that somebody wants to eliminate the word alcoholic or wants this not to be anonymous, it's not going to happen.
Nope.
So I don't care. And even if it would happen, I'm not going to stop calling myself an alcoholic or
Mm-hmm.
blow people's anonymity. I don't have to
Right.
change the way I act,
Right.
So yeah, it was just interesting. And I knew once again I knew we were on the same page with all that, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think we've actually talked about the word anonymity.
Yeah.
If I don't think we've talked about it on here.
No.
It's funny though. So anyone, anyone who's ever been to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, sooner or later somebody's going to be reading something, and they have to say the word anonymity.
Yes, they do.
I don't know why that word is so hard because it was hard for me to not hard to say like I can't say it. I'd
Hmm.
like physically I couldn't say it. So
Right.
I used to slow down and say anonymity in my head. It's like I get a running start.
Right.
let let my brain get a running start, but some people are like anonymity.
Hmm. Anonymity.
Anonymity, yeah. I have no idea why that word is so.
Right. But it tends to trip a lot of people up.
Yeah, so it's actually kind of funny every time it's the promises. Yeah,
Yeah.
the promises. There's like yeah the two at the end that have the word anonymity in it,
Uh huh.
and yeah, people every time people
No,
read the
it's
promise.
the traditions.
Oh yeah, the traditions. I'm sorry, yeah,
Yeah.
not the promises, but yeah, every time Gordon Square is one where they
Hmm.
do that.
Oh, we in my home group, Fear This Sunday, we read the steps and the traditions every meeting, and yep, every probably third person that reads it, so once a month, somebody screws it up. Yep.
And just one of those words. So,
Yep.
but so anything else about the anonymous part, anonymity, anything like that? Anything else on
Uh,
that bald head of yours?
well, like you said, it's in the two traditions there at the end, and it's everything in the steps and traditions and the promises and that first 164 pages of the big book are there for a reason. Um, you know, I I don't know about you, but if you look at my big book, there's nothing highlighted because I was taught very early on. You want to know where the important words are? They're the ones written in black ink. I'll see people with their big book and all this crap's highlighted. There's notes everywhere and blah blah. Okay, that's fine. Okay, it helps you to remember. It helps you to focus on that certain thing at that time. Cool, whatever helps you. I'm all good. But yeah, again, early on, it was drilled into my head. The important words are written in black ink. So just realize that, and I did, and yeah.
Well,
Go
well,
ahead.
you know what's funny is I've never heard that before, but
Ah,
I did not. My big book was used and given to me by Scott. Scott with the
uh-huh.
glasses in the
Yeah,
VW Bug.
yeah.
He's the one that gave me my big book, and it was just one that he found someplace, and so
Right.
somebody else had it. But unless I missed a page, if maybe in the stories or something like that where it's
Hmm.
highlighted, I've got my own notes, and at some point I want to go through there because I made notes while we were in groups and stuff like
Right.
that. So on pieces of paper that I think would be interesting to go through. But no, I never. I don't know why I wouldn't have. I was probably. I don't know if I was. Yeah, probably in college I was a highlighter.
Mm.
But I didn't with that. And I don't know if I didn't want to mess it up or what the deal. I don't know. I have
Right.
no idea why I wouldn't have. But that's that's great. All the ones in black ink.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Those are the words you have to worry about.
Right.
Yep.
And that's why, yeah. So for anyone that, and when Mike and I always talk about when we say some weird shit, then we're like, oh, that must be on page 165 or
Right.
167 or whatever it is. That you, if you hear anything, when we claim that something is from, the big book,
Uh-huh.
and it's anything outside of the 164 pages, it means we're lying about it. So
Yep.
just so you know,
Hmm.
it means it doesn't exist,
Right.
or we just made it up. So.
Yep.
But so anything else on that, or you all good on the
Uh, I,
anonymous?
I, I think I've expressed my opinion.
Yeah, imagine that. All right, so last thing, and I think this should be kind of a quick one, but it was right below what I just had.
Hmm.
Do you like on a daily basis? I'm going to say outside of when you do your readings or your prayers or anything like that.
Right.
Do you ever like in a normal day use any like recovery sayings like either out loud, whether it be the Serenity Prayer or anything else in your normal life? Not when you and I are fucking around the not today stuff or
Right.
whatever, but
Right. 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 Well,
anything else
and
like
that's
on a
part
normal
of
day.
it. That is part of
Yeah,
it.
it is. That's a
It
good
is.
point. That's a good
Yeah.
point.
But well, the one that always sticks out. You guys know I'm a driver. I drive a truck for a living, and there's a official AA pamphlet called Acceptance. It's several shades of blue, and I think there's like a white dove on it or something. I don't know. I accept that too. Anyway, but my first sponsor, it was when I was a house father. He gave me that pamphlet and he said, "Read this." And I did. And there's a story in it about there's this guy that lives in the desert, right? Like this Bedouin dude, and he's living in the desert, and there's whirlwinds, right? Dust devils all over the desert, constantly spinning around, right? Spinning around, blowing up dust, kicking up dirt, just spinning constantly around him. And somebody comes up to him and asks him, how can you live among all these dust devils, these whirly things? And he just looked at him and he said, "I just let him whirl." Powerlessness, man. Yeah. That's one that I have to use constantly every day. I have to let things that I can't control, people, places, and things, especially people, kicking up dust, throwing dirt in my face, causing commotion. I have to just let them whirl. There's nothing I can do about it. And so yeah, that's a big one for me. That's what comes to mind. Acceptance.
So, kids, 12 years and almost coming up on 4 months.
Right?
I have never heard that story from Mike. That's
Really?
awesome. So, nope. Let it whirl. And I'll tell you, I will use that because I don't, it'd be better. Well, not better, but I'm glad I don't have to drive back and forth to work every day now. But getting on the highway, actually, come to think about that, I don't think I got pissed off at all when you and I were driving. The traffic was
No.
pretty decent.
Right.
But yeah, let it whirl. That's awesome because the only thing that I've done, and the reason I made a note of the Serenity Prayers, that would be the one that I would use. It's not as much now as it used to be.
Sure.
But man, I remember being at like the second job that I had out of the Keying Center, and especially when I moved back to Wisconsin, and some weird shit would happen, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I'd go in the bathroom sometimes, go in a stall, and just sit down, not to even do any business, but just sit there and just say the Serenity Prayer over and over until I could calm myself. But
And
yeah,
I think for the Serenity Prayer, no, I don't actually recite it during the day anymore either. But I think we just did it so much that it's just it's always there. It's always for me that the Serenity Prayer is part of my life now. It just is, man. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I can't change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the goddamn difference.
Wait, is the goddamn in there? Is that in the original version?
Because that's the big one, that I think people kind of slack on. I need to be able to know the difference between the shit I can change and the shit that I just got to let whirl.
No, and you know what? I'm serious, man. This let whirl thing, that's a whole new that's like saying good every time I saw the word God.
Right.
I do that all the time now. But yeah, let it whirl, bitch. Hey, bitches, let it whirl.
Whirl away, motherfucker.
You know what? I might do a T-shirt. Let it whirl. Let it whirl with a whirl, right? WH whirl. Yep. Let it whirl. But it's funny. Did I ever tell you the first time I saw the Serenity Prayer? We were in. I'm pretty sure we lived in. It might have been in Pittsburgh, but it for certain it was in Wisconsin. So in both places, maybe not. Maybe it was Wisconsin. Either way, Mom had in her second bathroom, the bathroom off of her bedroom. She had the Serenity Prayer in a frame on the wall. And
really?
the first time that I read it, and I'll have to ask her about that when we see her. The first time I read it, I thought it was like a punchline. I thought that was a joke.
Right.
Because when you read it and the wisdom to know the difference is kind of like that bump moment.
Right. Oh yeah. It's definitely got that rhythm to it.
Right. But but the thing of it is knowing that she was married to an alcoholic and dealt with that shit all those years. So I don't know that that's where it came from, but I'm guessing. But yeah, that's the first time that I can remember seeing that, and was in her bathroom. Let alone, I mean, it wasn't at my dad's or anything like that. It probably was, but that's where I remember seeing it. So, yeah, just I was curious about that because, and like you said, and I know I was trying to bypass when you and I say not today, but you're right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's from the 24-hour book, and that means a
Right.
lot to us. Is that
Mm-hmm.
you know whatever's going to happen, fuck it, not today, man.
Right.
I don't know what's going on tomorrow, but not
Nope.
fucking today.
Not today.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's all the main things. There's a couple of other things I have in here as always, but they can wait. There's one kind of a deeper subject that we'll talk about it some other time. We had a nice lighthearted thing. This is I'm not going
Yeah.
to say it's going to bring down the room, but it's a little bit deeper subject.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So we'll leave
Plus, we're at an hour 7, so
it. Yeah. On top of that, yeah, we're now at an hour 8. So yeah, I think we're good. So once again, I love to ask this question because I love to hear the answer. Mike, anything else on your mind?
not a goddamn thing.
All right, brother. Then you can whirl us out of here. How's that?
All right, then. Well, thank you, everyone, for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. As always, give us 5 stars, buy a t-shirt, leave a review, tell us we're full of shit, whatever. And as always, be kind to each other, do something good for somebody else this week, and fuck off.
And I was sorry to bust that up with a laugh, but the tell us we're full of shit kind of caught me off guard in a good way. So
Right.
all right, man. I feel like this was I don't know. I had fun one way or the other. If hopefully everyone enjoyed it. If you didn't, you know what Mike just said, fuck off. But
Right.
all right, brother. I love you, and obviously
love you
we will
too.
talk soon.
Absolutely, man. Bye.
As always, thank you for listening to another episode of Sober Not Mature. To access all of our content and interact with us, please visit our website, SoberNotMature.com. Thank you again for listening, and we will talk to you soon.